afternoon. J. Michael TX reporting here on December the 17th, 2017. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. And today I'm going to give you my Christmas gift to you. I'm going to show you how very quickly, very easily, you can restore a Keyboard Maestro Macro from a prior version. Okay, so it takes about 8 steps, but really they're all pretty easy and they go pretty fast once you know how to do it. So first I'm going to take you through the list and real quickly, and then we'll go back and execute each step in order, and I'll show you exactly what to do. So the first thing, and I call it step 0 because this is what you got to do before you start this. You need to back up your Macro.plist file, which is an essential file to Keyboard Maestro. We'll be changing this file, so very important to back it up. We'll pick the macro we want to get a prior version of. We'll add a date to that in the current version. Then we'll revert to the prior list of KM macros. Pick that macro, add a date to it so we can identify it, copy it, return back to our current version, and then paste that into the current macro list. So, without further ado, let's get started with step number 0. Back up your Macro.plist file. So I'm going to switch to KM here, and I'm going to show you first how you find your macro file. You simply go up to your help menu, come down to the open preferences folder, and that will open up the finder then to the Keyboard Maestro folder in your library application support folder. So here it is. I've already got it selected, and so what we want to do is create a backup of this real quick. And the easiest, fastest way to do that is just to duplicate the file. And I'm just going to tell you, you can do that by pressing Command D. So, bingo! We instantly have a copy of this file, okay? So for my purposes, I always like to name these files with a BU for backup, just so it's real clear. Alright, so now I have a backup file of my main plist file. If anything goes wrong, it's real easy to get back to it. So let's go to our next step, okay? Next step is to select the macro in the current version and then add a date to it, okay? So let's take a look at that. So I have a macro pre-selected here, this at palette reveal conceal, and that's the one I want to get a prior version of, okay? So one of the first things I want to do here, just to help me identify this as being my latest version, I'm going to add a date to it, today's date actually. So this will also let me know when I get back to my current macro list, okay? So add the date, but go back and select the macro after you do that, and now we want to revert to a prior list. So we go to the File menu, okay? Come down to Revert Macros, and it gives us a variety of dates here, recent history, where you can revert your complete Macro.plist to. This does more than revert the selected macro. This is every macro that you have. So it's a big step, but not to worry, because it's real easy after we've done that to get back to the current macros. So I'm just going to pick the one on December the 11th, and we'll use that. Okay, so now we are on the December 11th version, and you may notice that this macro by the same basic name no longer has the date on it. Okay, that's because on December the 11th there was no date. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to add a date to it, representing its version, so that when we copy it, we will know that it is that version, or rather when we paste it back in, we'll be clear that it's that version. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the next step, which is simply to copy, and I'm going to do Command C, and you barely see anything happen. All right, but we've now put a copy of this macro on the clipboard. Now it's very important before you do the copy that you have selected the macro. You don't want to be over here in an action. Then you have only copied the action. We want to copy the whole macro, so be sure and select this. Now let's just quickly go back to our current version. All right, File, Revert Macros, before last revert. That takes us back to our current macro list. And you can tell that right away because here is that same macro with today's date that we just added before we started our process, right? Okay, so now in this example, I want to completely replace this macro with the version from December the 11th. Now, one important thing to do that, when I do that, is I want it to have the same UUID. What is that? That is the Universal Unique Identifier. And it's really how internally KM keeps track of all of your macros. They can have the same name, but they'll have unique identifiers. So you may have scripts or execute macros or other things that call this macro and it's identified by its UUID. So to show you that we have the right UUID, I have made a copy of that previously, and I have embedded in it this UUID. When we paste in the macro that's on the clipboard from December the 11th, in order for it to have the same UUID, we must first delete the existing macro, okay? But to be safe, I want a backup of my current version. And I'm going to use the same command I used in Finder, duplicate, and it's the same keystroke, Command D. Okay, now you see, it takes that and it adds the word copy to it, just like it did in Finder, okay? But we want to go back to the original, and we want to delete that. So to do that, you go to Edit and Delete, okay? And it is gone. So now we have our copy should we need it, but now we're ready to paste in the version from December the 11th. So now I'm just going to press Command V for paste, and there is our macro from December the 11th. Now I'm going to show you how to get the UUID so you'll know for sure that it is the same as before. You go to the Edit menu, you copy as, copy UUID. So let's go back to this macro where I have a comparison list, and now I'm going to paste in that after I've deleted it. Okay, and you can see that is the same exact UUID as before. So we are good to go. All right. So now this macro from December the 11th is exactly the same UUID as before, but it's the prior version. Now, at this point, I probably want to remove that date so it has the same name. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that date off of there. Now, if I have called this macro anywhere just by its name, it'll find it as well. But we are done. That is all there is to this process of restoring a macro from a prior version. So let's go back and look at our to-do list here, our checklist, and we've done all this stuff, right? So we just did a paste of the prior version. So again, I want to emphasize that if you don't delete the original first, the imported macro, the one we did the paste on, will have a different UUID. Okay, so that's it. We are done. I welcome your questions, comments, or suggestions. And if you have any of those, please feel free to post those in the Keyboard Maestro forum. This whole list will be in the YouTube description, so you'll have a link there to click on. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you found it helpful. If you do, please like it, and I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.